Up, everybody? Welcome to the Radical Roots podcast, where we dig deep to reach higher. I am your co-host, Payron Baxter,
And I'm your co-host, Ram Sandoval.
and Rom. We are 547 days to election day, to midterms, I should say, not election day with the proper to get out the mango Mussolini. But and I don't know if we'll have a country by then. I don't know if we'll have this settler colonial project by then. But still, I like to bring that up every episode. But jumping into it, we haven't really connect. We didn't connect Thursday. You were out of town. I was in the movies. I'm going to go see Thunderbolts early that evening. But as we jump into it, let's talk about your shirt, where you were this week.
Yeah. So
What does it
first,
say? Pull it up. Let's see what it says.
State of the People, the Power Tour. So the State of the People is an initiative started by Angela Rye during the State of the. I always forget what they call it the first year. It's not the State of the Union that the president does.
The joint address to Congress.
Thank you. So during that, there was a 24-hour marathon that Angela Rye had. She had on tons of people for 24 hours, just live stream. She kicked off with Joyanne Reed. And I listened to various parts of it, and throughout that, I was very motivated, inspired, a lot of positivity, a lot of talking about, not with like rose-colored glasses, but that like, yes, shit's about to get real. It's gonna burn down. We need to protect our community, ourselves, and let's have a plan to rebuild. Let's have an affirmative plan. Not just everything anti-Trump, but what are we doing to protect all of these vulnerable groups? So I was very inspired by that, because that was like the first time that I felt like there was a lot of people that were focused on these efforts, as opposed to like doom and gloom, following the new executive order, and all that stuff was happening. Yes, and we started this podcast with progress through action, right? And so we had that goal, but kind of just felt like we were shouting out to the void. So anyways, they're doing a tour. It kicked off in Atlanta last weekend, and then they went to Raleigh, Durham on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I drove up Tuesday night, checked it out, and started off at a church, a local church there in Durham, and had several groups there speaking. I did ask I asked the first question,
Okay.
just because we handed in, and I wasn't quite ready to ask it myself, but I asked it. I talked a little bit about private communications and how do we mass communicate, but ultimately a lot of we started in the church, and the Black church especially, has been kind of a beacon, a local organizing place, and probably will continue to be. But during the civil rights movement, obviously the church was an important place. At one of the churches, one of the events was at Martin Luther King had spoke at. So they had various groups there: Sister Song, Urban Ministries of Durham, Color of Change, Woke Vote, 100 Black Men, I guess North Carolina, or one of the chapters, it might have been Durham actually, Black Voters Matter. The second day they had a workshops throughout the day, and there's just a lot of good information. And one of the things that struck me was that the differences between an event like that and like an indivisible event, or Democratic Party events, is that and like for example the protest they had here, or the parade, but they're the hands off rally, Social Security, hands off my Social Security, hands off my 401k. Medicare comes up, but here the conversations were a lot about survival, like talking about childcare, education, maternal health care,
Right.
food deserts, and like how the effects are going to be felt dramatically. And so really just planning to counter that, right, through these various groups. And it's a lot, and we've been talking about that, right? Find something that's important to you. Can't do them all. I want to do all of these, but it's just impossible, right? So I think people need to find, again, the organization that speaks to you the most, where you can help out. because it's going to be the community. That's all there is. I mean, the federal government's gone, all this federal aid, for education, health. I mean, for childcare, right? Early start programs, financial aid. All of this is in jeopardy, right? HBCUs, the funding, national, the African American History Museum, all of these things, right? So there's just a barrage of things, and so they black women are superheroes.
No question.
Like,
of course they are.
It's like, because
are.
amazing organization. Shout out to the black men there showing up, but the audience is majority, black women, and majority women. A lot of these spaces just majority women in general,
right?
But to have like this, I'll call it like a sixth sense. I mean, even Kamala Harris told us exactly what was going to happen, right?
That's right.
And so,
and to her credit, also so did Hillary Clinton.
She did. And so again, like I said, women are
women be
organizers,
knowing.
yeah. So
women be knowing,
but very much ahead of the curve in terms of what people are saying in the mainstream and what's actually happening, or what's about to happen. And I think that the message at this event is more the message that the masses need to hear, not a message of like, because even some of the conversations, like I said, I listened to this 24-hour marathon, and it was positive in a way of like, okay, we're going to rebuild, we're planning, this is what we're doing, da 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 da. The messages there were in some of the events, they were talking about these things that were hitting, and it's like, this is depressing. But it's the truth. We're not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. Like, this is what's coming down. This is what happened last night. They're trying to bring military into the community. They opening up a prison and a deal with Libya and Rwanda, right? Who do you think they're sending there? Who do you think they're going to be sending to Libya and Rwanda, right? So like, it's just a very realness, right? And very just daunting, but also just motivating, right? And so like, just a lot of good information, and I think I'll share some of these groups and what they're doing and have them on. I ran into Jordan Lopez, ran into
I saw that.
Ran into Zach Hawkins. I think he is a representative as well. James Roberson, he's also a House representative in the 39th district. So they want to come on.
Let's go.
And during this, they also had the DEI vote.
Yep.
So they cut out DEI that day. So yeah, just a lot of stuff going on, man. But now I spent a few days in Charleston with the family. A lot of history there.
Come on, Charles, right? But it's so ironic. Like, they go from that to Charleston, which was the largest slave port in the nation, to bring in this, the majority of enslaved captives, as we should call them.
Yes. So that was what I did this week. What about you? What have you been on?
I mean, nothing like that. I mean, clearly you were doing the grassroots stuff. But for me, I mean, nothing really insane on that, I guess I should say. But for me, I went to the Kendrick concert yesterday. Culturally, that matters. I think also in this exact time where we're talking about Black imagery, as we're going to talk about sinners in this episode, is also very important, right? The legislation, but also culturally, what does this mean? Because as we talk about things like the erasure of DEI, which is a white invention for white people, that also benefited white women the most of anything. Let's also lay that out. But so it's supposed to be a stand-in for representation. So it's supposed to be a stand-in for the amelioration of these long-standing racist policies that have been put into place to set Black people and people of color and women and queer people back. I thought the imagery around that concert was fantastic, especially around Not Like Us. They had this really cool screen that was like really hyper realistic, and everything, like when he was performing that song, was all Black culture. I was telling my mom about it because she was supposed to go, but because due to the weather she didn't go. And it was like, they had 80s bamboo earrings and the high top fades and the pictures of Marcus Garvey and the Sphinx, and it was so much Black culture, and all the white folks that came there just for Not Like Us, but I'm sure they missed all of that. Pictures of Queen Latifah, pictures of the Watts riots, pictures of Rodney King, so many things throughout our history, and dare I say within the past 100 years. So he wasn't going back to anything beyond that, but just proving that there is this through line. And as we get into Sinners, we'll talk about that too. There's a point in that movie, and if there's spoilers, if folks haven't seen it at this point, that's on y'all. That's on y'all. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
3 weeks in, but the point of tying all these things together. So that was my main thing. I've honestly been taking it a little bit easy since stepping down as the Democratic Party chair, as it relates to some of my actual boots on the ground work. And telling people that I think I deserve that, but also I find myself in situations where I'm still being on a political soapbox, talking to masses of people, even if it's just at a barbershop. And that happened on Wednesday of this past week, where I was at my barbershop and having a conversation with a throng of people, not just the barbers that I've been going to for um, 10 years, God, 11 years now. I can't believe I've been going there for so long. But, of course, the patrons, and talking about what Black liberation looks like, what Black power looks like, what Black love looks like, and why we should be trying to uphold what Black free people looks like, and why we should be trying to embrace Black free people. To the point where I got into an argument with this young sister. She was probably 25, 26, about like, oh, I think the only people that helped me in my life, this gonna sound bad, uh, is white people. They're the only ones that invest in me. They're the only ones that help me and educate me. I said, hold on now. I don't believe you what you're saying, but you're trying to tell me the only people in your life that ever help you with anything, whether it be financial, educational, or emotional, are white people. She's like, yes. I said, and yet you come to a Black barbershop for your two sons to get their haircut. And I just kind of walked her back from like what she was saying
Mm-hmm.
about the conditions they were in. And by the end of it, she was like, I'm voting for you, wherever you do. I said, look, I'm not running for nothing. I said, but we have to, as Black people. I said, I didn't get her name. Intentionally, I didn't get her name. I said, are these your two Black sons? I said, she's like, yeah. I was like, I love you and your two Black sons just for the sheer fact that you draw breath.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything spectacular or superfluous for me to, or any sort of conditions, no conditionality on how I love you and how I love your Blackness in the society, because again, we all are under the same boot. And if I could teach you to love yourself and love other Black people for whoever they are, not with this word should, but with this word, not with this word should, but with this idea that to just be who you are and to support them, as long as you're not hurting nobody, as long as no one's hurting you. That's how we love free Black people. And I saw the gears in her mind start to turn, like, man, I don't think that way. I think from a very narrow, myopic viewpoint. And again, and then my barber was like, see, I don't say nothing because Perry don't know what he's talking about. I don't be saying nothing because Perry don't be, I said, Mike don't even cut my hair. So, but he's out there for Ethan.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I listened to the sermon, or the sermon from my church in Chicago on the way back today live, and he was speaking about if you love yourself, you understand yourself, and you can pass on that message to others.
Right.
And I thought of you, man, because like when you can speak truth to power and speak in a way that empowers and then inspires others. That's what's needed right now more than anything. And it was talking about the agents, like your tongue. You have control of your tongue, right? Your other senses, what you see, what you hear. You can't really control that, right? But what you can control, what comes off of your tongue, and there's a lot of power in that. And so we have to use that. And I butchered the sermon a little bit, but that's you get the message, right?
Because those are all inputs, right? But your tongue is outputs.
Right. And your hands,
how you
your hands and your
synthesize
feet,
it.
your hands, your feet, and your tongue, right? So, and how you use that. And, it had Jesus up on the cross, but he could still speak, right? So, very
That's a
powerful
bar.
message. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll have to, there's probably gonna be some clips from that. But anyways, man, so what else we got going on?
So this week there's been a lot of fuckery. We haven't talked for going on a week now, right? But yeah, so there's images floating around. We know Pope Francis died.
Mhm.
No matter your how you thought about Pope Francis, dare I say, I mean, I'm not Catholic, and I have a lot of issues with the Catholic Church, as most people do, due to its issues with sexual assault and cover-ups. But most folks, I think, with a level head would say Pope Francis was a more progressive pope in the papacy history. In the papacy history, I don't really get into the depths of the papacy, but we would consider him, a progressive pope. So now there's this scramble for a new pope, And lo and behold, Donald Jackass Trump posted this photo of himself as the Pope. And Lindsey Graham himself said that Donald Trump should be the Pope. You know, Lindsey Graham, who back in 2016 said that if we elect Donald Trump, the Republican Party will be destroyed and we would deserve everything that happens to us. He also said Donald Trump should be the Pope. And this set the internet ablaze.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham, I don't know, man. Just put it out there. I have no idea what they have on this man. Why even put it into the. I have no idea. Maybe Trump told him to do it. I don't know. I'm not Catholic. I have a lot of Catholic friends. Have a lot of respect for Pope Francis. Pope John Paul, grew up on John Paul. Benedict was a little iffy to. If I'm being honest,
Benedict was definitely not. You're right.
That's why he's out. But anyways, you know, they consider in Catholic, I believe that they consider the holiest man on earth, this person, right? And here then, so Trump took it and ran with it, and you know, my Catholic friend thought that this was blasphemous. I thought it was disrespectful. I mean, this is what we're doing. You know, they say he's trolling. I'm like, okay, well, even if you are, you know, trolling, like, why are you trolling as the your president, your page, but then they reposted it on the White House page,
right?
And it's
I used to always say that I wanted a atheist president, but I didn't realize that the first atheist president would be the one who's trying to act like he's a Christian.
Yeah,
you know, that's like the worst version of an atheist president, right? One who's trying to philander himself as this.
he's not even Catholic.
No,
Like,
that's
yeah, exactly.
Christian, right?
A
Christian, right?
Yeah, but he's not even
right. So that's what I mean. It's this, because all of it's the Paula White, it's these other evangelicals, it's this, and this does mean something culturally. And we need to discuss that, which we'll get into, is what this means. And I think it's this image. I think right now this is what white America is really, really struggling with, is because this represents the dare I say the blasphemous nature of what this represents to this land, this people who have been here before. Because what does this image mean to an indigenous person?
Right. Well,
right. Like, what does this mean? Like, why would they care about it? Right. That looks just like the people that came over here, or who were sent by the person that looks like that sent the people here to take this land.
right.
Right. So we're now dealing with this neo-colonialism, trying to take Greenland, trying to take Panama, trying to take Canada. We're dealing with a neo-colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to analyze, is what does this mean?
Yeah.
What does this mean to us as we're trying to separate church and state? We're trying to understand what the state even is. Because these are all modern inventions in humanity. Before, you know, the concept of a country is still very, very new. It's only been around for the past couple hundred years. Because before we had nations, what do we have? We had empires, right? The Roman Empire, the Portuguese Empire, the Ottoman Empire. We had empires and royalty. But now we have this new invention called nation states.
Mm.
So what does this mean for those who are, you know, very pious? And, you know, I'm an atheist, but I'm just, as someone who does study religion, history, geography, you know, all these things. I think for folks who are those of the faith, it's to reconcile, because you got to think the smallest country in the world is the Vatican. It's a self-contained, quote unquote, country. What does that mean? And how is he blaspheming that, if in reality that means the cover-up of sexual coercion and sexual assault of young people and young boys? What are we talking about here? So I think I'm embracing all the shit that Trump's doing. I'm embracing all these neo-Confederates and these modern day segregationists, because it's like the veil's dropped. There's no more like, well, he's a good man, and the Republicans, you know, I could work with them and the good policy. No, they're telling you what they want. What are your thoughts?
You know, I mean, I had a thought, like, so I was on a tour in Charleston yesterday, and as he was talking about, you know, all of the religious factions. I mean, back then it was Protestants, it was Presbyterians, Baptists, all kinds of Catholics, and so and it was, you know, coming from Irish and some of the, you know, various communities, right? And I was thinking back, you know, back then, it wasn't just Christianity. It was literally, you know, all kind of separated, and still is today. But like the way that Trump and white Christians today is kind of like it's just lumped in together, and I think that they're manipulating and twisting religion, obviously to their gain, right? I don't know. It's very different now. You don't really hear the people breaking down by, here you got Trump, who's not even Catholic, dressed, putting himself in as inserting himself as the Pope.
Not even a Christian, right?
And yeah, and he's this guy. I mean, I don't know how. Anyways, so yeah,
But it's worthy to analyze, is it not? I mean, because I mean, no offense to you. I mean, see, you kind of struggle through this of like understanding what this means and why this is so negative. Because as we're trying to really understand what's motivating the majority of people in this country to to vote for this man, white people, because we cannot forget white people did this, I'm only get flagged, but not me. Okay, the majority of the majority voted for this man. Okay, the majority group in this country is white people. 57% of the population, but 71% of the electorate. I'm gonna say that one more time. People who identify as white, people who believe themselves to be white, as James Baldwin said, are 57% of the population, but 71% of the electorate. And the majority of that 71% chose this man in his AI image. So we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean? What does religion mean? I mean, I think as Christy Puckett, when we had her on our show, she said it so eloquently that numerically, Black people shouldn't even have to vote if they really believed in the Constitution and democracy, and they had all these Christian values and they cared about all these people having the access to vote and take care of your fellow man, yada yada, hell, jingle bell. This was told to our ancestors as well. And our next part, we're going to get into the well, maybe at the end we're going to get into sinners, where that was brought up too, like the idea that this was pushed on my people too. So we have to ask ourselves, what does this image mean? And again, I always go back to the first peoples of this nation. What does this image mean to a native? What does this image mean to the Zulu, the Yoruba?
Colonialism. Yep.
Those who practice Ifa in Africa. Like these were the same people that were told, this, you don't listen to this, you're going to go to hell. And if I believe it was the indigenous warrior Taino, when he was about to be burned to the stake, and they said, if you don't give your soul to Christ, you're going to go to hell. And he said, well, no, he said, if you don't give your soul to Christ, you won't go to heaven. Then he says, are you gonna go to heaven? And they said, of course we're going to heaven. We're men of God. He said, I'd rather go to hell than, so I don't got to see you there, and at least see my people. So I mean, we have to deconstruct this stuff, man. We have to deconstruct. I mean, and I'm not trying to show nobody's religion, but we have to understand, what does this mean? Why is this so disrespectful? What is it? Who, as Malcolm X said, who taught you to hate yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many different ways. Even like I could go to my sermon right now. I can go to the sinners. We could talk about that. But even like growing up for me, right? In my mind, as a child, like Christians, kumbaya. If you're a Christian, hell yeah, I'm a Christian too. And then growing up and realizing like, wow, like there's wildly different variations and ideas of Christianity. And by you saying you're a Christian,
I was a Pentecostal growing up.
Yeah, by you saying you're a Christian doesn't necessarily mean that that doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me, right? Like, I need to know like I need to know what you believe, like, because this weaponized Christianity, that's flowing right now. This white evangelical, prosperity gospel, and that just really goes against everything the teachings of Christ. It's just humanity, really, against humanity. Like, America's mentioned in the Bible exactly 0 times, right? So, like, and you would think you would think that Jesus walked in the United States of America. You would think You would think that he is, this white, blue-eyed,
with
blonde,
abs.
and yeah.
He lifts, bro.
And the idea of kicking out immigrants and not taking care of people because they don't have the same skin tone as you, skin color as you. We're not taking care, like, this country's not taking care of the most vulnerable people, not taking care of the poor, not taking
Never
care
has.
of children if they're the wrong color. You're not taking care of the most vulnerable. You're not taking care of women. So I don't know
Right.
what it is about this brand of Christianity, this white nationalist.
Well, I always go back to the story that my grandmother told me about her mother in Alabama. That one night in the early 1900s. I don't know the year. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was in the early, it was before the advent of like television. I mean, I don't know. This is early 1900s, right? They're living in this shack, and this is my grandmother's mother when she was a little girl. So we're talking like she was probably born in the 1800s, and the Klan came. This is the first iteration of the Klan after the end of slavery. The first, it was born about then. It was born in Pulaski, Tennessee, with William Bedford Forrest Gump's named after. And so this first iteration of the Klan came to my grandmother's house when she was a little girl.
Mm.
And she tells me the story. She tells me the story. This is years ago. I was a little boy. But as I'm now having a more nuanced lens, I revisit the story that they were praying to Jesus that the Klan does not come in and kick in the door and burn the house down and blah, blah, blah. Right? They're praying. But she also remembers that they could hear before the raid started that the Klan was praying to Jesus for the power to do this. So when we talk about colonialism, we talk about how religion has always been weaponized to be whoever in power is imbued with the power. I mean, every atrocity that's ever happened in humanity has been ordained by God according to whoever's in power.
Mm-hmm.
God said we should take this land, manifest destiny. Zionism tells them that the land in Palestine, which has all brown people there, this little dot is for those people from Europe. Right? There's always, what's happening right now in India is that they say that their gods have ordained. Every king said that his blood was christened by God for him to be the king and have the kingdom there, and every queen, right? Everybody, right? So every mass atrocity always said that their God, whoever their God may be, told them that they should be in power. This is why we should have the separation of church and state in a modern context as we talk about nation state building in a post colonial world. But I think about that story that my grandmother told me. And when folks are like, Jesus is going to get Trump out of here. I saw that today on Facebook from one of our Union County folks. They're like, she didn't say that, but one of the commenters on her post said that the Jesus is going to get Trump out of here. And I'm like, why? Because if God is the Alpha and the Omega and he knows everything's going to happen, why would you pray against what God wants? And again, I'm not trying to make this a theological conversation, but I'm just going back to what does this mean to an indigenous person? What does this mean to somebody who's on the Serengeti? What does this mean to somebody who's on the Gold Coast of in the Congo, who saw those ships come across the ocean and they thought that the white men on there were already dead, and this is where we get the term zombie. It came because they called them Vumbi.
Mm.
Vumbi meaning like, oh, that's the word for like deity or ghost at the time. They're like, oh my God, these men who were clearly alive, but they thought they were dead. The Vumbi. And then they get flipped hundreds of years later, zombies in a zombie apocalypse movie. And every zombie apocalypse movie is based in the idea of brown hordes coming to get you. This is why you need your what? Your gun. So this is the propaganda as we go, as we try to, I'm kind of off on a tangent here, but as we talk about what that means historically, I do think of that like story from my grandma every time as I'm trying to deconstruct and get and tap back into my ancestral roots as an African citizen of the world, not of this settler colonial project called America, because
Mm-hmm.
we are Africans in the world, my friend. Right? This is why when you went to Africa, you were able to connect with those people, even though they don't know you
Mm-hmm.
to a degree, right? I'm sure you don't speak the same language, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I think with religion, especially if you are of in an area or that was colonialized, you have to reconcile what that means. To your point, right? Because all Latin America or majority of Latin America, Mexico is Catholic, right?
Correct.
Black Americans, religious Black Americans, majority some sort of form of
Yep.
Christianity.
Hmm.
And it's fair to. Then I think you do have to. I don't think you can truly be. And this is my opinion. I don't think you can truly be if you don't question your religion, your beliefs, your spirituality, your faith. I think that it's probably weak, right? If there's something that's presented in front of you, if you feel threatened by another religion, you feel threatened by somebody else who's a different religion, then
Hello.
your faith isn't that strong to begin with, right? And so, even for me, like I went to various churches, non-denominational,
Yeah.
growing up, and I didn't really feel it. It was more of like,
Now, did you have like one church growing up? Like that was like your church growing up?
no, because we moved a lot, and I did
Oh,
have one like in middle school. Actually, at that point, for majority of my time, it was at a white mega, almost a mega church called Willow Creek. It's kind of well known, but it wasn't that like that far. It's not like a Joel Osteen, but it's like, but it
okay.
was like,
Because that's what I was thinking. I was like,
it's
Joel Osteen style?
but and I went to a
Like
Catholic.
elevation style?
Yeah, no, not quite. And so I don't know what it would be like today, but I went to a Catholic college, DePaul University, and that was when I first actually started questioning my faith. Really, was because I took a class on the Old Testament, New Testament, alternative religions. Right, we weren't afraid to discuss alternative religions, and for a few years just kind of questioned my beliefs, and then for me it became stronger over time. But and I'm at a Black Liberation Theology church, right, which
Right,
like
right.
that's where I feel the most
It
connected
marries the stuff,
because
right.
right because it's reconciled. And they actually quoted that same Malcolm X quote that you said today, and the whole talk was about this colonialized mindset. You have to like use your tongue to, you don't want to get trapped in that, right? So
I learned from
anyways.
this indigenous
Mhm,
sister, and this last point, like
mhm,
I recently learned from this indigenous sister on Instagram. I said something like, "Oh, we got to decolonize our minds," and we've heard that, right?
mhm.
She hit me with the sweetest retort, and I loved it. It helped me. It helped me again. I love to reshape my mind. But she says, "I don't use that term anymore. I say we need to re-indigenize our minds."
Mm. Yeah,
Oh,
I
I said,
mean,
"You're right. You're right."
I mean, yeah, you
Just
had
because we say decolonize, it centers the
it's
colonizer.
true, it's true, and you think about, and they say, well, I guess I don't want to get too much off on the tangent, but they say, oh well, they would still be in Africa and da 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 in huts and all the negative things, and they wouldn't know the way, and slavery was a good thing, and and it's like it's
Every
like wait
time,
a
and,
minute.
and that's the sad part is like every time you get there, you're like, to a certain point, no matter what, and again, maybe we should do a whole episode on religion, but
Yeah, and we,
you
and
get,
and
yeah,
I'm
like,
saving this for sinners too, because it's funny. Like
yeah. So
we
anyway,
we
yeah,
didn't
I'm
expect,
sorry.
we didn't
Anyway,
even expect to, I don't think we
no.
expected to
So
talk about
moving
so
on.
much. Like, yeah.
So let's segue. Let's segue to our next point, Rom, which is a white devil. I will gladly call her that. Shiloh
Oh wait,
Hendrix.
wait.
Oh wait, no, never
Just
mind.
before that, we just got to touch
Sorry.
on this
Oh
real quick.
yes. Let's backtrack. Forget what I just said, folks. So today is May the 4th, and all you Star Wars fans out there know that today is May the 4th be with you. I am a Star Wars fan. I'm not like super in depth. Like I'm not going to, Star Wars Con with the face paint and like my Mace Windu, who was the only black Jedi that we had with the purple. With Sam Jackson said he chose the purple lightsaber because that's swag. And I was like, that is true. No one else has a purple lightsaber. Anyway, so the White House put out this image, this AI image. They seem to be loving the AI. They seem to be loving the AI, which again, a lot of us warned that AI would become a tool of right wing fascists. And look at this. And so it says, "Happy May the 4th, all to
To
all."
all, including the
I can't
radical
read that; it's
left
too small.
lunatics who are fighting so hard to bring Sith lords, murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy.
Ugh.
You're not the rebellion. You're the empire. May the force be with you.
Now, anybody that has watched Star Wars, even on a cursory level, just watch it on USA when you were 15 years old on a Sunday, would realize the Empire. are the bad guys. And the fact that he's saying they're bringing Sith lords, which would be on the same side as the Empire, is totally contradictory. It's like that's crazy as shit. But what's crazy is that we've said this for a long time. Folks who are on the left and progressive is that a lot of us don't have media literacy, especially people on the right, where they can watch things like the Hunger Games or X-Men or Star Wars, and they see themselves in the underdog that's fighting the system, right? They see themselves in that. This is why when we see representation in those things, they get mad because they always want to see themselves as the victim, even though they are the empire. Those are stories based on folks, when George Lucas created Star Wars, it was based off the propaganda and the fight that was happening within Vietnam, and as they call it, the American War. And they just had their this week just passed was their 50-year reunification day in Vietnam, as they call it, the American War. But this fool goes on to say that you are the empire. They basically say you are in the red robes and the black robes walking with Darth Vader. You are. And we warned them that, yes, this is an empire. One, this is an empire. Most folks do not believe that America is an empire. It is. The I've talked about this before, the octopus strategy and 800 bases around the country. No other country has 800 military bases around the world besides America. I says country, I'm sorry, the world, 800 military bases. Why need 800 military bases? Controlling, again, empire. But this fool says, you are the empire. You're the empire. So to all the folks who are in the resistance, and I just have a bit, I'm going to post it down when we get off this episode from a Navajo brother that I follow. And he says, he basically is making my point that I'm making here, that he tells you how to say, may the force be with you in Navajo, because you are the rebellion. You are Luke Skywalker. You are Han Solo. You are the people fighting Darth Vader. And he has the red lightsaber like Anakin Skywalker, who then became Darth Vader. So we aren't wrong, folks. It is time to start leaning into you being right and trying to find the middle ground with people who just don't know. They knew, and if they didn't know, you don't have to apologize for being right. Your thoughts, Ron, on that May the 4th.
Well,
and happy May the 4th.
Well, yeah, I will say, who knew, like, under that suit that,
who knew
he was that swole?
Ripped, bro.
I'm not a Star Wars fan. I've seen a few movies. I'm far from it.
Who's your favorite character? And why?
I couldn't tell you. So, anyways, I do know, like, the red lightsaber is fitting for
there
him.
You go. Hey, you know the red lightsaber. I know the red lightsaber. I know that much.
But this is posted on the White House. Here we go again. This is
isn't it fucked up? Like it's just ran by trolls. Like our country is being ran by trolls.
And people are like, this is what I voted for. This is what they voted. This is what a lot of them voted for. I said, like, we could always talk about the 2 to 10% that didn't vote for this, and they exist. But good Lord, make sure you realize that majority of people who voted for Trump, they love this shit. They love immigrants getting kicked out. They love children getting torn away from their families. They love everything about
that's
this
why
man.
Right. And that's why that's why I don't want to hear shit about when people are like, well, they didn't. It's always liberals telling us that they didn't vote for this.
No, they did.
It's like, yes, they fucking did. And it's like, I think it's all baked in. You can't then separate when that motherfucker loses his job. And then they're like, well, they didn't vote for that. It's like, well, yeah, you did. You didn't expect it to happen to you. You did vote for it to happen to somebody else. You did vote for someone else to be harmed. You did vote for someone else to be oppressed. You did vote for someone else to be the outcast and marginalized and under the blade of that red lightsaber. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh, no, Sandy was hurt. She's a Trump supporter. She had the flag around her neck in January 6th, but then she lost her job at the milk plant. It's like, okay.
And they're ready to sacrifice. They're ready to sacrifice it all for this shit. Like, if it means kicking brown people out this country, if it means getting rid of DI, then fuck it. I lost my job, and like, oh, that's what I gotta do. My 401k went down 50%. Like, these people are,
and this is why I lose respect for people who are in Democratic leadership who want to keep telling other quote unquote Democrats or Democratic voters that they didn't vote for this. Like, stop. Why are you taking on water for them? Yeah. Because guess what? Someone's fucking lying, because these motherfuckers are saying whenever someone's getting deported, they're the first ones being like, yeah, that's good. He was an MS-13 gang member. Or You'll get folks like Mike Johnson who will run his happy ass to a camera and be like, "This is what the mandate was from the American people." So somebody's lying. I know one thing: we didn't vote for it. Black people didn't vote for it. Never forget, 8 out of 10 Trump voters were white. And I'm repeating what Ellie Mistal said, and Tiffany Cross is saying, Reverend Dr. Barber. So this is not me just being some sort of a race hustler or whatever I get called every fucking day. These are people who are journalists and folks who have degrees in the study and study political science more than me, and I study it pretty intently. And I'm someone who studies Africana studies that understands this whole project. We aren't wedded to any party. We are liberated. We are wedded to our freedom. We are wedded to our liberation. And what we were saying is the people who did not want our liberation chose to vote for racial hierarchy and gender hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And it ain't black people. So you try to pull up, well, black men voted for Donald Trump. No, the fuck they didn't. The same goofy ass Negroes that vote for every Republican voted for him again.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah, and I throw a little perspective on this. Like especially during his first term leading up to this, I called out white supremacy a lot, and kind of probably backed off that message, or didn't need to use that message when Biden became president, and honestly like kind of forgot how much I was like going in on it. Like I looked through some of my Facebooks, I was like, oh yeah, but
yeah, he was out here. He was out here.
And then after this election, and it's like, all right, this needs to be a wake up call, right? Because clearly, these people voted for it, and again, you talking about it, the November Democratic Party is like, this is the message, and people need to get that this is what it is, right? It needs to be named, like, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, because how can you fight something that you don't understand, right?
Come on.
And if people saying it was economic anxiety and a price of eggs, and now you have people talking from the price of eggs now ready to again sacrifice their job, their well-being, their 401ks, their savings, all of this stuff in the name of getting the brown people out. Yeah, name of Trump. Anything Trump says, that goes. Like it all of a sudden, he went from an accident for Kilmar, clerical error, to he is the worst MS-13 terrorist that we've ever seen,
rapist,
and
aficionado.
These people echo this and everything. So no, like it's not economic anxiety. So we can stop playing into their talking points, right? And like, I mean, and again, this is a guy who took over the Republican Party over the past 10 years, and so people thinking
but real quick, I'm gonna push back on that. We have to stop doing that shit too. All the MAGA Republicans, and what it does, it exceptionalizes Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a Republican, and he's the leader of the Republican Party. And when we say things like, "Oh, no kings today," it separates that he is not a part of the Republican project that has been happening ever since. Project 2025 was derivative of Project 1981. Which was started from the Heritage Foundation under Ronald Reagan. And did you know, folks out there listening, that by the time Project 2025 got kicked off, Project 1981 was 60% done, which means Project 2025 was only the remaining 40%. So as we talk about history and what this is, it's that. So we have to stop trying to exceptionalize Donald Trump as if he's some sort of aberration, and realize there's Mike Johnsons and Kevin McCarthy's and Marjorie Taylor Greenes and your neighbors and your daddies and your husbands that want this project to happen.
Yeah.
Right. They've been going after PBS and the Department of Education and weaponizing the government for decades. This shit has not been happening since he came down that elevator on June 17th, 2015. This has not been happening since then. It is and it's okay if you're not aware of that. But folks, this is a large project. What's his name? Grover Norquist. I remember seeing him maybe 20 years ago in 2005, before I was even nowhere near politically savvy. He was giving a speech in Chicago. Robbie, it's probably your fault. No, I'm joking. But he was in Chicago, and he was talking about continuing Milton Friedman's idea of rage, which is rage, which is retire all government employees. So that's the same thing as Doge, right?
Yeah.
So that's a long-term thing. So we have to stop acting like, oh, it's Trump, it's MAGA, and they've been captured. No, the fuck is not.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Because again, I talk about the Tea Party kind of transforming. There was a lot of resistance within the party, and but the Heritage Foundation, as you said, has been around for decades. This has
50
been this is a
years.
long this they've been in it for the long haul, right? This is actually the culmination of a very long term plan. So like especially like Democrats thinking 2026 is we're gonna be able to vote our way out of this. No, like they've made significant strides, and to the point where 2026 is not going to be, you're that 2%, 5%, whatever it is not going to be enough to reclaim the country. Like it's not. Democrats have to be more. They have to get out the center, right, and not be afraid to be more progressive, be more radical, as the these Tea Party people that came in, when Marjorie Taylor Greene came in, even Ted Cruz, all of those people were considered radical at the time, and now they're the leaders in the party. Trump is in here. Trump has come in. He's, so these people are vehicles too, and they this is a long term thing. So I don't know why people think that in 2026 is just going to be the magic. We'll just kick it back until 2026. No, that's not going to be enough. Anyways,
My buddy I went to go see Thunderbolts with on Thursday. He's politically in the know. He's not like me and you, right? Like he's not talking about what's going on in the NSA and all that shit with Mike White. He's not doing all that, right? But he's black. He's he holds several degrees. He's a father. He's all around what we consider like a middle class progressive black man. But we talked for probably an hour and a half after the movie outside of North Lake, and we were talking about stuff, and he was talking about how he's afraid in his neighborhood and the gentrification that's going on. He lives in Charlotte, and he talked about he's kind of nervous to tell me. He's like, no, to be honest, Perry, I'm like I'm politically unaffiliated right now. I'm an independent. I said, that's okay. That's all right, man. I said, listen. I said, what do we as black people get for voting for the Democratic Party? I just wanted to sit with that question. What do we get? Because Alyssa Slotkin goes out there and says, we have to get away from the wokeness, which we know is a stand-in for black. So if we're being told by elected leaders, elected officials, that we have to get away from the wokeness, which is tantamount to black, what are we getting from the Democratic Party? We're not getting voting rights. We're not getting police reform. We're not getting education reform. We're not getting reparations. Like what? And I just want us to talk about that, because the folks that and on top of that, black people vote. Our demographic votes the highest per capita for our demographic. So we vote at a higher rate than white people with the voter suppression, with the voter repression, with the misinformation. We still vote at higher rates per capita for our demographic. This is why we will not be talked down to by people. This is why we will not be finger waved at people who want to tell us that you need to get your community. We didn't start this. We didn't create these rules. We didn't create a presidency to co-equal to a bicameral branch with the Senate and the Congress. We didn't do all that. We are just saying, when we did get the chance, again, we are not wedded to this system. We are wedded to our freedom. We are wedded to our liberation. We are wedded to what will keep us safe. And if you don't have that cultural competency, you will never understand. So I just want us to sit with that question: is what do black people get for voting for the Democratic Party? And sadly, what is leveraged against us is that if you don't vote for us, they will get you.
Yeah. And the anti-Trump, I don't think that just the anti-Trump is going to be enough to maintain the black vote.
No,
and also not to bring in.
No, not at all.
That 30, what is it? 30.
We're not even a part of that. That's the thing. We're not a part of that.
34% of non-voters.
No,
I don't think they're not talking about Trump. They're not talking about Pete Hegseth, and they're not talking about Mike Waltz, and they're talking about what I guess they would call kitchen table issues, right? Like, how do I?
But what are the kitchen table issues? These are all stand-ins. The economy. What kind of economy? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
this is why I say, if you do not have demands of your government, you're an unserious person. Black people have always had a demand of our government, even before we had access to the franchise, even when we were still captives. We had demands to let us be free. If not, we gonna take it by crook or hook. This is why one of the speeches given by Malcolm X has been lauded as one of the best speeches in American history, number 70, if I'm not mistaken, ballot
Better than the
or the
bullet.
bullet. So if we don't get it through legislation, through the ballot, we will get it by other means. So that's always been our politics. I try to remind people of that. This is why people are Democrats this and black people. Look, man, and I love Michelle Obama, but when Michelle Obama said, I live in a house that was built by enslaved people," that's also a house that the captives told the British to burn it down because we were wedded to our freedom as Africans. Yeah, we're forced to build it, but then the invaders are coming in who want to kill the folks that are keeping us captives. We'll show you how to go burn it down. That is we are always fighting for our liberation. We're not fighting for this project. And in fact, when we go fight for these wars, most of the time, black people are forced to go fight in those wars. Before I got on this call tonight, I was on the phone with my mother, who was telling me about a patient. She works in healthcare. A patient came in from Pittsburgh, where we're from, and told her about this ice cream shop. And he was a 70-year-old white man. And he said, "Oh, Isley's ice cream shop. Remember that?" And it jogged her memory of when my grandfather came back from the Korean War, which again they call the American War in Korea, which split them in two. That he could not get served ice cream there in his uniform. And she was crying tonight about that memory when she was a little girl. When we wave that flag, that is a totem to leave us the fuck alone. That is why we wave that flag. That is why we fight in those wars. That is why it is hopefully a stand-in or an edge to leave us alone. That's what I need us to understand as folks who are listening and trying to understand, well, black people. That is, and even if you don't have the language for it, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
It is, yeah. We could go into a lot in that, and it really is like, leave us alone. Like when have you ever heard
Black mob goes to White Town and burns it down? Never.
Yeah, or like we're gonna like we're gonna kick these people out, and it just doesn't it doesn't exist.
Because whiteness must always have that. It has to have borders, and it has to have policing, and it has to have deportations. Because if it doesn't have those things, what does it have?
Can you imagine if black folks had the same the thirst for revenge that Donald Trump and these people do? I mean, think about it. I mean, literally, think about it. Do these people throughout history deserve the grace that black folks have given throughout history? I mean, all of the
who we are. It's who. That's why they had to steal us.
And they still and it's still not enough. It's still not enough.
Right. I mean, we're seeing it with Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso right now, right? Fighting for his people. And what's the American media doing? Oh, he's corrupt and corrupt.
Yep.
Then leave. If he's so corrupt, then leave. But they won't leave. So how is this? So what are you talking about? He's nationalizing the resources, the same thing that Patrice Lumumba was doing for his people. Patrice Lumumba being the precursor with uranium for Black Panther with vibranium. Right? So like it's all, brother, it's all intertwined, man. Come on now.
And South Africa is another one that they're meddling.
Yes. Then get the fuck out. If we're such, again, when they talk about black crime and go back to Africa and black people want to rape everybody, so why would they go steal a bunch of rapist murderers? We built this country for a quarter of a millennium. We fought for our own freedom. Then all of a sudden we're lazy 5 years later. What?
Quarter millennium.
Quarter of a millennium. Never forget that. I don't say 246 years. I always say a quarter of a millennium. Never forget that.
A long time.
Well, we were longer under slavery than we haven't been so far.
Right. And they're trying to take us back.
No question.
So
anyway,
yeah. Shiloh.
As Shiloh Hendrix, this milk snake out here. If y'all don't know, just a quick rundown. I don't know if you're gonna show the video or not, but I'll show the video. Let me just give it a quick.
Yeah, I'll show the video.
Ugh.
Reluctantly, I didn't really watch it till tonight, to be honest, right before we hopped on. So, but I was aware of what happened. I just didn't have the stomach for it, to be honest.
The child? Did you call the child the word? It is my own business. You call him.
Is the sound playing? It's not on my end, but okay.
Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again? Okay. All right, that's what you say. Nobody digging to your. That little kid, you call him a. The little child?
What if he acts like one? He's gonna.
Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old and the N-word.
If that's what he's gonna act.
That's
like.
what you're gonna call him.
That's what he's gonna act like.
You know that's a hate speech, and you can be the that.
I don't give a.
Huh. Okay, we'll see about that. What the internet has to say about you.
So the actually first
I think
time
you
I seen
guys
it
got
in
the
entirety,
gist.
that's the first time I seen it as an entirety. And I don't know who the
Yeah,
man
me
talking
too.
is. He's I don't think he's the boy's parent.
No,
It sounded like he sounded like he had a Spanish accent. So
Yeah.
but wow, I mean, she's now has raised over $1 million.
Is it over $1 million now?
I believe. I thought it was 1.2 million. Maybe I'm thinking about. Maybe I'm thinking about that other racist that killed a black person that they raised for. But this is what they do over and over, right? Kyle Rittenhouse,
Daniel Penny.
Daniel Penny, and
now Shiloh Hendrix. You know, this is a tale as old as time, and I am completely incensed by this, but I'm not shocked, right? It's one of those like shocked but not surprised moments, right? And I do think the silence of these quote unquote allies that are still finger wagging, why aren't we out there at the hands off protest, who don't give a shit about this? Because this is a daily occurrence. When I told the Union County Democratic Party that I've been called the N-word 3 times here in Union County, people didn't bat an eye because racism is so normalized in the eyes of white people, even the most progressive, even the most democratic, even the most that will tell you they've been a Democrat ever since 2016. Ever since then, I've been voting Democrat since 2016. They will tell you that, like, you know, that sucks. I'm sorry that's happening. The silence is what Martin Luther King warned us about. And again, what did I say? Like, why I was okay to step down from my role. I knew I had to fight with motherfuckers like that Shiloh Hendrix lady, who feels like she can talk to us. And the problem with in America, they've always treated black adults like children, and always treated black children like adults.
Yeah, well, this is, so I think another influencer said that this 5-year-old looked older than he was. Okay, what?
Yeah.
20 years, 15 years older? Like what?
That's
I mean,
right.
like, and they always turn them into
Monsters.
superhumans.
Monsters.
Trayvon
Right.
was this, superhuman.
Mike Brown.
Yeah,
He said he felt like what was that cop that Sean was his name?
superhuman
Darren Wilson.
Yeah,
Yeah, he said it was like Hulk Hogan picking up what was it, a munchkin or something? I mean, do you see this is the dehumanizing monstrousness because they have to have these lies.
right.
What did what I say episodes ago, what did Dr. Amos Wilson say? The colonizer must call them a savage so they can treat him savagely. And then to the Negro, I have to call you a criminal so I can treat you criminally. This is the continuation of that. This is the Carolyn Dunham Bryant that got Emmett Till killed. This has never gone away, and they don't want to deal with that in their communities. There are no black women out here doing this to white children with the power, the historical power that yeah, we call someone a cracker. Yeah, the historical power isn't about you. That's still the oppressed calling the oppressor something, right? But the power of a white woman wielding the N-word towards a child, which children were slaughtered by white women in South Carolina to the point they had to pass a law that stopped white women from killing children specifically in South Carolina because there were so many bodies strewn on the road in the late 1700s. This is that history. Sorry.
And yeah, and we and it can stop there, but I'll even say that it shouldn't be that hard to condemn this, right? Because if people say, "Oh, well, what was he doing in her purse?" Like, who gives a shit? You see this kid play? I just saw this video for the first full time. Actually, this segment, he's just sitting there playing. Like, so, like, obviously there was nothing malicious because he wouldn't just still be.
He's 5.
He
doesn't know what malicious is.
Exactly. Like, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling to me that it's like even like that. Like people can
projecting
make the argument.
Sort of, right.
That's what I mean when I said like I don't even need to like. I feel like I don't even need to talk about it, right?
No.
But people are actually saying like he deserved it. Like how, like what, like.
And then for her to say, well, if he's going to act like one, well, what does one act like? He steals. No one steals more than white people.
It's sad. Man.
You can look at the FBI's data of who commits larceny crimes in this country. White people commit the most. So if stealing is a charge to be called the N-word, it's your people.
And so now America has to put up the mirror and say, like, well, why does she have $1 million fundraising? You know, and that's what
they won't. That's what they're not talking about it.
And that's the kicker. And then you have other, like I said, other influencers that are defending this, right? So, and popular influencers, right? And you know, people who would say they're not racist defending this, right? Because you know he was digging in a purse or whatever it is. And
it's a dagger. It's a dagger to the heart. It's a reminder. Because we've all been little. I mean, you were a little boy. I was a little boy one time. And the idea, and again, this quote of like, oh, that he has autism, and I love what Ebony Warrior said of like the idea, like, who can? Yes, I don't add that as like that's going to extra humanize him, right?
They don't care.
Black, right, right. You think
Carolyn? Oh, he's got autism.
Carolyn Emmett Till.
Oh,
you think she knew that first of all?
Right.
You think she fucking knew that before she said, hold on, wait, do you have autism? Okay, now you're an N-word. Like, no, that doesn't matter. So and that's to again try to almost bring up like, well, there's a reason for it, and like the white woman. No,
how many times
this is the vile.
How many times have you been told? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that. But like, how many times have you heard like, oh, you're not. There's black people and then there's niggers. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah, a lot. And maybe not specifically like it was black people and niggers, but basically you're not one of the bad ones.
Yeah, I've heard. Look, I've heard.
You know, like that's what you. Oh, you're not like because and I love what Bell Hooks said something about this years ago, where she said that like the narrow viewpoint of white supremacy, and again, we're all awash of white supremacy, including all the white progressive people, and the thing that they're unwilling to accept that, but we're all awash of white supremacy. But she says that in the myopic view of a white supremacist, when they say, "Man, Rom, you're so amazing," they have to create a brand new subsection instead of acting like, or instead of realizing that maybe their viewpoint is just too narrow and that they had it wrong. And that there isn't just this throng of black people who are just murderous, rapists, you know, licentious thieves, and then just this one guy that you know that is not. And that is because they always must have a threat. Again, whiteness's identity is wrapped around it always being under threat because it's not real. And until they can get a handle on that, they can never stand up to what happened with Shiloh Hendrix, because that's their aunt, that's their mother, that's their cousin, that's their friend, that's their neighbor, that's their hairdresser. That they've heard that over Thanksgiving dinner, they've heard that at football games, they've heard that at little leagues, they've heard that at park with their kids, and some other white women, they're gonna get in the way. So this is what we mean by doing the hard work. If you knock on the door and making a phone call for a candidate every 4 years, you feel like, I'm doing the work. That's not the work. If me and Rom can do the same thing you're doing, that's not the work. It's using your privilege to destroy that privilege. And if you're unwilling to do that, then get the fuck out the way.
There's a lot of power in that privilege, or there could be. Yeah, so use it.
Anyway, so we'll keep an eye on this. I'm sure by next time we will meet, she'll be $17 million. But it just proves racism is lucrative. This is why I guess trying to find it earlier, but Clay Cain's book, The Grift, Oh, there it is. It's actually propping up my camera. Clay Kane's book, The Grift, is about the history of Black Republicans from the party of Lincoln to the cult of Trump. Basically about like why there's these Black Republicans and when these white people are like, well, look at Tim Scott, look at Mark Robinson in North Carolina. It's because it's just shorter way to the front of the line.
Right.
If you can get a Black man who will tell white people that the problem is Black people, don't make that man president. Don't make that man. They'll try to make that man governor. They'll try to make that man whatever. But the exact minute, like Michael Steele learned, the exact second he said something about racism,
Yeah,
your ass is grass.
Yep. So what do we got time for?
I just want to just touch on sinners. I
All
mean, I know I didn't. I mean, God.
It's hard.
We're 3 weeks late.
When we skip an episode, when we skip the Thursday, and there's so much to talk about, and it's like
I know. How about, you know what? Let's maybe not hit sinners today. I do want to give it his time.
yes.
Can we do this, Rom? Can we do a sinners episode this week? How are you looking this week, man?
It looks
30 minutes.
Thursday. I was excited. It looks just
well. Let's
as
do it
bad as
Thursday,
usual
folks.
Thursday.
It'll be a sinners. So you have one more week to go see it. If you haven't seen it, to hell with you. But yes, because I don't have that much time. Because I definitely want to give it its just due. And again, it's coming back in 70 millimeter IMAX in certain locations, in 10 locations across the country.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So real quick before we wrap
Yep.
up, here in Monroe, my understanding is DEI committees on the chopping block.
That's right.
One thing I think is there a special meeting tomorrow at 8:30?
Yeah, it's in the morning.
It's like I don't
Yeah,
even understand
so-
what that is. Is that the way that they can like squeeze it through or something? I don't know. I haven't had time to get caught up. But there is a letter. I did see a quick letter from. Let me see if I pull this up here. There's a letter from the Lisa Strickland, the finance director, prepared by Lisa Kerner, the grant administrator, who basically goes on to this letter and says that by having a DEI committee, that there is it violates federal law. And I'm like, well, so when I read this, I'm like immediately like, well, what federal law? Because there's
executive order, which
there's
is
no,
right.
and I'm tired of this laziness of these people in Monroe, these people
Yes.
in the Union County Public Schools of saying like an executive order is the law. Just like this issue that they had with defining adult entertainment. And then you got Dumb and Dumber. They get up there, they're asking to do research 4 months in, or however many months they've been talking about this. It's like, why didn't you do research in terms of like what you could do within the power of the mayor pro tem, and the council before you actually brought your motion to the table? Why don't you actually figure out what you're actually able to do? You got your lawyer, you can talk to him as much as you want, but you're lazy. These people are lazy. They're using it as an excuse to basically push through their agenda, right? And some of these people are, licking at their chops. They can't wait to get rid of DEI and whatever it is. They don't understand what DEI is anyways. And we talked about this DEI theater, inclusion theater, right? Of, we're doing this, and half of these cities and companies are doing it for the wrong reasons. And I think they're doing it wrong anyways, right? So
yeah. I mean, we can't forget DEI was a white invention that benefits white people primarily, right? This is why I say to my Black brothers and sisters. In fact, I told my buddy after Thunderbolts, I said, because we were talking about the DEI thing, I said, man, like, you make your white coworkers better. They are better for knowing you. You are not better for knowing them. Oh, the parent has racist. What do I mean by that? I mean by that is like, yes, if you know someone interpersonally and you strengthen that interpersonal relationship, absolutely no problem. But what I mean by culturally, societally, historically, how to work with people who have culture, to work with people who are oppressed, to work with people who have to navigate these systems, these death-dealing systems that America creates. You are better for that. They do not want that. And to a degree, honestly, Rom, and I've been saying this on a lot of people's posts, and I'm sure they don't like it, but it always seems to get a lot of likes, more than the original poster or other people's comments, is that I embrace this. I embrace this. I embrace these neo-Confederates. I embrace these modern-day segregationists. Because at the end of the day, the only true DEI, as they like to call it, the people who didn't earn it in this country that's ever existed, is whiteness. If you had to just be the right skin tone, and your daddy was your daddy's daddy, and your daddy knew the daddy of the daddy of the daddy of the country club, yeah, that's an affirmative action. They're gonna hire Johnny's son. That's an affirmative action. This is why when Charlie Kirk was like, if I see a black pilot or if I have a black female doctor, I'm going to be cautious. I will never be cautious if I have a black doctor, a black lawyer. You know why? Because we had to work 100 times harder to get there.
All right.
To get there, you're good. No, you're good to get there. So at the end of the day, and when folks are like, well, black folks don't care about education, we care about education to the point under threat of death to learn, to read and write. Because Frederick Douglass knew that his liberation was tied to his education, not like to a degree, not to a letter grade. He knew that if he learns this white man's language, that it will lead to his freedom. This is why he was tricking the poor white boys. He would say the wrong letter, and he would trade food with them. Oh, this is a D, right? Like, oh no, you stupid nigger. It's actually a C. Okay, now I know that's a C. Hey, this got to be an X, right? Nah, you stupid monkey. That's a Q. Okay, no, I know that's a Q. You put these letters together, that says fliff. No, that's CH. It says ch. Okay, CH is ch. Again, the number one fear of an enslaver wasn't insurrection. It wasn't murder. It wasn't poisoning. It was fakery. Because that pokes a hole in the whole idea of white supremacy. So we created colleges because you wouldn't let us in. When you said that, oh, black folks don't care about it. Yes, we do. This is what DEI, this puts a fear in them. And what I say when we had Franklin on, the whole idea of what Lonnie Bunch said is that when he started his career under the National Museum of American History, that there was only one narrative. That's what a nation state needs. Is one narrative. Is what we grew up on, me and you, Ron. That George Washington cut down a cherry tree and didn't tell a lie, and Abraham Lincoln, wooden teeth, and all this shit. Is once, but now Rom has a story. Now Peyron has a story. Now Rose has a story. Now, Liz has a story. Now we all have stories. That's why they can't hold on to it.
Yeah. DI, like, the federal funding, and I think that this is something that's is going to happen one way or another.
Embrace it
and whatever, because DEI itself, again, I don't think that it was necessarily been done right, and I think it's now that we're in places, and I don't want to work for anywhere that's not diverse or that's not inclusive, or I don't have equity or whatever. So I'm the prize. Like we will continue to like,
again, they're better for knowing you.
You build colleges, build churches, build spaces. We're gonna build. We're going to innovate. Like I said, the biggest organizers right now, the people who are getting ready to rebuild and protect this country, is black folks. Like, I'm hearing more ingenuity and more ideas and more thought, leadership out of the State of the People just this week alone. And I know that it's in our blood, right?
But we have to be clear-eyed in this moment.
Yes.
We have to look. We have to look at it. That's my whole thing. We can't be sitting here and like, well, I don't know. What do you think, Carol? And these people who aren't tied to liberation, who have no history.
Yeah, I think, and it's like, well, going back to like Chuck Schumer, and is like, well, here's the red line, and once he stops listening to, it's like, well, the red line, we passed the red line. Like, he stopped listening to the Supreme Court. I don't know what people's like. Do you see Kilbar home? Do you see them trying to get like? So they've already stopped listening to the courts. I don't know what people think that like. I don't know why people are under the illusion.
The media can't say anything about it because if
I was just saying, now he's saying that he doesn't have to uphold the Constitution. Like, well, what are y'all waiting for? Like, what do y'all think? Like, we're telling you what's about to happen. Libya and Rwanda? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think they're preparing for? You send Ukrainians, illegal, undocumented Ukrainians, or like to Libya and Rwanda? Even like Hispanics to Rwanda? Like Latinos to Rwanda? No, that's what are they? So it's the writing's on the wall. Anyways, I don't know if you have to say anything else there. I'm gonna play a clip because this sermon like ties all this together.
Let's
I
finish
could play
up.
like the whole thing, but like
I'm good. No,
I mean it's so perfect.
Let's finish up here.
It's so perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and
I'm gonna hear it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Proverb.
Real quick, this is from today?
Africa,
yes.
And within the Judaic tradition. There's something that I want to give you, and I'm almost done, is simply this, is that colonized speech will imprison you. You must understand this, that unfortunately many of us still use colonizing and colonized speech. Here it is that you are a child of God. All humanity are creations of God, but there are doctrines that attempt to remove certain people from God's care and God's love. You have heard over and over again, for those who have marginalized, don't know how to use speech appropriately. They will, especially if you come from Trinity, you are a deacon and you are a sister, they will then walk up to you and say deaconess, and you say deacon. They will say deaconess again, you say deacon. They will try to colonize you with their speech. Whether you are black or brown, a person of color, there's always somebody trying to colonize people of color with their speech, to marginalize who we are. For if you are LGBTQ, there is always somebody trying to colonize with speech and say that you are outside of God's love. Now they are trying to colonize with speech with one who is undocumented, Asian, or indigenous. We've got to be careful about colonizing speech. But if I may break it down this way, for those who've been black all their lives here today, is there anybody here been black all their life?
Come on now.
That there is colonizing speech that comes and hurts the core of our being. Where someone will tell you something like, you're pretty for a black girl. You're pretty for a dark-skinned girl. You are so articulate. All the above is nothing but colonizing speech, highlighting the negative, pointing to an individual as if they are an exception. I'm sorry, I have to say it this way. You ain't no exception. You are the rule. You are beautiful. You are phenomenal. You are magnificent. You have been made in the image of God. You're not pretty for, you pretty because.
That's right.
You are pretty because our God made you. You are articulate because our God made you. Never let anybody imprison you with colonized speech. It was Malcolm X who said, who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate your lips and hate your nose and hate your hair? Don't you know God made you the way you are? Somebody here needs to know that you are a child of God. You are designed by God. You are beautiful the way you are. You need to love your lips and love your hips, love your hair, love your nose, love your color, love who you are. Is there anyone in here that you know you are made in the image of our God? Stop allowing other people to use colonized speech.
That's right.
One more
Colonized speech will imprison you. But here is the thing. You need to understand this, that please know that our God is a God of DEI. My friend and my Morehouse brother, and none other than Senator Raphael Warnock, when he was preaching in D.C., he said that people are trying to get rid of DEI. But they don't realize what they're saying or what they're doing. Because when you take the word DEI, that in Latin, DEI is de. It means God. But if you put imago in front of it, it means image of God. That anytime you try to take away diversity, equity, inclusion, you are trying to erase the image of God. And if you don't believe me, God believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because there are 390,000 species of plants. There are 11,000 species of birds. There are 15,000 species of ants. There are 20,000 species of bees. There are 6,000 species of mammals. There are 32,000 species of fish. There are 10 million color variations you can see. There are 1.2 trillion planets in the Milky Way alone. There are 1 trillion different types of smells that your nose can smell. Our God is a God of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And anyone who wants to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion is not of God. Let me say it again. Anytime you want to erase somebody, it's not of God. Anytime you want to eliminate somebody, it is not of God. Anytime you want to burn books, it is not of God. Our God is not afraid of literature. Our God is not afraid of color. Our God is not afraid of culture. Our God believes in diversity. Is there anyone in here? Do you know we serve a God who believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
All right, I can, like I said, I can play that whole.
No, that's good, man. No,
Like,
again, Trinity Church always comes through. As a proud atheist, I absolutely love every time I hear them. Because again, it's not about I'm against the organized religion of it all, but I understand we've always had to internalize the colonized beliefs that were placed on us, but we always brought our ancestral practices. This is why the Black church does have the idea of the way we do music, the way we do food, the way we do culture, the way we even read and interpret the Bible. So I am absolutely fully aware of that, and I think that's why I support what's going on in Trinity, because again, they do preach Black liberation, and these jack store dollar preachers we have down here in the South, even here in Union, are very much, they never try to rock the system. They try to individualize. In fact, they teach the white man's Bible. They teach that it's you're the problem. If you just change yourself, then maybe things will change for you. But no, and I love the way, because before him was Jeremiah Wright, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they always talk about systemically the evils, right? That's what Martin Luther King talked about, the 3 evils of the world: militarism, capitalism, and racism, right? Those are systemic issues. Right, you can't just bootstrap your way out of those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just change your idea, your mentality around those 3 things. You have to fight against those systems. And I'll finish with what Kwame Ture said, that true organizers, most folks could mobilize against an issue, which that's the hands-off protest, but true organize against systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why these folks, they have no demands. They just the issue of Trump. No, but this system itself will always give you a Trump. Will always give you somebody that does this.
So the biggest takeaway: demands, and that was actually a theme last week at the State of the People's, but demands. So, all right. Well, I thought that was I enjoyed the conversation. If you're still listening, like, subscribe, follow, share, so on and so forth.
Sinners episode on Thursday, y'all.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good one, because I want to talk. I thought it was one of the most spiritual movies recent, and I want to talk
Jason
about
Whitlock
the whole.
Doesn't think so.
Yeah, Jason Whitlock said
we'll talk about that too.
He said it's the most racist movie he's ever seen. So I'm like, I don't even know how you can. I don't know.
I guess if you're a Klan member, you think it's very racist.
All right, man.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. I'm your co-host, Peyron Baxter.
And I'm your co-host, Ram Sandoval. Thank you for joining us tonight. Peace, love, happiness.